Walk anywhere in the city of Istanbul and you're walking on the past. Underground enthusiast Eric Geller peels back the layers of buried past.
This is incredible.
This is very impressive.
Pretty amazing. We're underground Istanbul, but in a boat.
There's an entire world beneath our feet, layer after layer, left behind by the Romans, Byzantines, and Ottomans. The cities of these fallen civilizations come back to life, and the empires rise from the ashes as we peel back the layers of time to uncover the cities of the underworld, Istanbul. It's been called Byzantium, New Rome, Constantinople. This peninsula sits with the Marmara Sea on one side and the Bosphorus Strait on the other. It's the only city in the world that straddles two continents. Its strategic location made it vital to the rise, fall, and rise again of opposing empires.
I'm Eric Geller. I'm in Istanbul, Turkey, and for centuries, this was the most powerful city in the world. But when you're on top, the only place to go is down, and down is where these empires went. If you dig anywhere, you'll find evidence of the fallen civilizations. There are cisterns and libraries, dungeons, hidden tunnels. There are entire cities buried beneath our...
We'll peel back the layers of time, modern houses, busy streets, and bazaars to find a hidden history like no other. Not a catacomb or a tunnel or two, but entire cities, stacked like bricks, each layer of history buried deeper than the next. The city began in the 7th century BC as a small Greek fishing village called Byzantium. 200 years later, the village became a part of the Roman Empire in 330 AD. It was renamed Constantinople when Emperor Constantine moved his capital east, and the Eastern Roman Empire, later known as the Byzantine Empire, was born. For more than 1,000 years, the Byzantines flourished here. Then in 1453, Constantinople was conquered by the Ottomans and became Istanbul. Almost 500 years later, the modern Turkish Republic was born. For 27 consecutive centuries, the Greeks, the Romans, and the Turks built palaces, stadiums, bathhouses, and roads, each trying to outdo the one before. Understanding why begins almost 1,700 years ago, when Istanbul was the new capital of the Roman Empire.
For centuries, this city's prime location made it the most desirable spot in the world. The Romans knew this, and they acted quickly to defend their new capital. They built impenetrable city walls, they chained off their harbors, and perhaps most ingeniously, they found a way to protect their greatest resource, drinking water. And it all started right here.
The aqueduct was one of the Roman Empire's greatest engineering feats. In the 4th century, Constantinople's water began its journey 12 miles from the city center, in the forest of Belgrade. Powered entirely by gravity, the precise slope of the aqueduct's construction carried large amounts of water across uneven ground until it was safely inside the city walls. The water was then diverted to one of 5 open-air cisterns. Here it would purify itself, depositing mineral and organic matter while keeping its pressure. The water then made its way into the many subterranean tunnels, snaking beneath the streets. Its final destination was one of the thousands of underground cisterns, where it was stored until someone decided to pump water from the fountain above. Historical guide Bora Sertbash
Bora?
Hi, Eric. How are you?
takes us to the largest underground cistern in the city. Many believe that it was from here the emperor got his water.
In a minute, you won't believe your eyes what you will see down here. This is a totally different life than what you've seen above.
It's called the Basilica Cistern, but the Turks call it Yerebatan Saraye, or Sunken Palace.
This is amazing. Look at the size of this place.
This is a huge place.
You would have no idea coming in off of the square.
Yeah.
I mean, there's restaurants right there.
About here.
There's a park right here.
Police station, everything.
This is massive.
And we are going to see about over 100,000 square feet of an area here. This is the biggest underground cistern ever built by the Romans in this city.
Emperor Justinian was responsible for building this cistern in the 6th century. He also built the nearby Hagia Sophia and was the emperor under which paganism died and Christianity flourished. During his 43-year rule, he reclaimed the Western Empire, reformed Roman law, and rebuilt much of Constantinople. The Basilica Cistern is one of the largest Roman structures left in the world. It's 140 meters long and 70 meters wide. The roof is supported by 336 marble pillars, spaced approximately 5 meters apart. The cistern was the key to the survival of the city, constantly under siege. The aqueducts, which acted as natural bridges, had to be broken to prevent entry. The water stored in the cistern helped sustain the residents of Constantinople for months at a time.
After the conquest, 1453, when the Ottomans came into the city, nobody gave them a tour. Okay, so they didn't know where is what. For that reason, the underground systems were not discovered for a long time.
But even after they were discovered, the Ottomans didn't feel as vulnerable to attack as the Byzantines, so didn't rely on them as much. The Ottomans' cultural preference...
Still water is considered dirty. When it runs, it's clean water, and this is what we use.
The Basilica Cistern was forgotten about until 1544, when a Frenchman, Pierre Gilles, became intrigued by the endless supply of water and fish the locals were pulling out of their basements. Gilles is credited with rediscovering the Basilica Cistern after being invited on a fishing trip underground. The Basilica Cistern lies more than 7.5 meters beneath the modern city. Over a vast area, everything you see, trains, restaurants, hotels, even the police station, is supported by the 6th century cistern. The marble columns credited with holding up the modern city were once submerged in water and were never meant to be seen. They were leftovers taken from nearby temples or monuments.
How come it doesn't fall down? How come, the police station isn't right there? How come this whole city hasn't caved in?
That's a good question. Now, at this point, we should remember the very important saying. City is built on 7 principal hills, like Rome. When they had a valley, they erect columns in there, put in the Roman arch, cover it. With 1 stone, you shoot 2 birds. You can have a water storage underneath, and you have a flat surface now above.
Approximately 1,500 years and 25 major earthquakes later, these columns still support the cistern and the city.